What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we're going to talk about ruts, blocks, and grooves, or grooves, ruts, and blocks. I don't know what the smoothest way to say it is, but basically talking about those situations where we all find ourselves sometimes where you feel like you're in a rut, feel blocked from training, from pretty much anything. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to share some of the things that I do. Eugene's going to share some of the things that he does, in order to get out of those things. And hopefully you guys can use this with your training or whatever else you're getting into. So hopefully this is useful to you. Big thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web. And by the way, guys, in case you want to, at the time of recording this, we have it set up so that on the November 26th through the 30th, November 26th through the 30th. So we're releasing this on Monday, the 23rd, but on November 26th through the 30th, 2020, we are going to be giving you guys a super good discount. Now, if you're listening to this later on, you can still use the promo code Chewjitsu, save 15% on your order. But if you've been listening to us for a while and you're like, man, I really want to try some of that CBD stuff Chewy talks about, but I just, I don't know. A lot of times with price, people just like, I don't know, it's a little expensive, whatever. If you'd like to try it and you'd like to save even more money, from November 26th to the 30th, 2020, Charlotte's Web is going to give the Chewjitsu podcast listeners a steep 30% off discount. So if you go to their website and you use the promo code Chewjitsu30, so Chewjitsu is 15%, Chewjitsu30 for those days will be 30% off. You can save 30% off of anything that's available. The only exception is that it doesn't work with the bundles, but you could just pack everything together and get it cheaper anyway without the bundle. So again, if you're wanting to try some of the sleep gummies that we talk about all the time, if you're wanting to try one of the tinctures, if you're wanting to try any of their rubs and their balms, anything you want in their store, it's available 30% off, Chewjitsu30. So especially if you're one of those people that's been thinking about it, you've been listening to us talk about it, you're like, man, I'll give it a try. It would be the best time to do it coming up for the Black Friday weekend because they're giving a super awesome discount. Also, big thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. If you want to head on over there at any point and check out some of their gear. I'm looking at his website right now, and again, he's got everything from, he's got some new shorts. Those are pretty slick.
Like stretchy ones?
Yeah,
they look awesome.
Those look slick.
I want to try those.
He's got, it's a really pretty pair. I didn't know that he came out with new shorts. I'm going to have to tell Matt he's going to send me some. But he's got some his last shorts worked out great. But he's got ocean blue, gray skies, and matte black. I really like the gray. But again, I like Matt's stuff. I actually wear, I know it's funny, like whenever Eugene and I, like, we have people that message us all the time about doing stuff, where they're like, hey, we want to sponsor your podcast, and we want you to push this thing that we're trying to sell. We're very picky, right? Like one guy say, hey, like, someone sends me a message, we want you to push this and whatever. And I'm not pushing that out, or hey, let me try it first. Like, we can't do that. Well, then I'm not going to do it. I like Matt's stuff because I've tried his stuff. I tried all his gear before he was ever a sponsor of the podcast. I wore his t-shirts. I like wearing his t-shirts. I think they're nice, they're comfortable, and they look cool. They're good designs. So again, if you want to check out his stuff, go to epicrollbjj.com. Use a promo code Chewjitsu. Save 15% on the order. And again, check out those shorts. Those are sweet. I'm gonna have to get a new pair of MMA or jiu-jitsu shorts anyway, so you can check those out, or anything else you might be interested, whether it's t-shirts, rash guards, gis, the whole thing. So check that out. And then for you guys, if you follow the podcast, and you probably know, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, where along with every episode we include some different content in the back end. This past month, one of the things that we included that may be of use to you is a workout program. So it's a workout program that we created at the gym for beginners, because a lot of times people come into our gym and they either haven't lifted in a long time or they haven't lifted at all. And the program was kind of created for people, like, so for instance, my girlfriend, when she comes back to the gym, she was out for a while and she gets really sore. Like super sore, doesn't like being sore. She's not like me. I'm a masochist. I like being sore.
Yeah.
Like, my muscles feels great. She hates it. So the workout program is very simple. It's a very simple, straightforward routine that'll probably take maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes inside the gym. You could also, would work pretty well with the home gym. You'll just need some basic equipment like dumbbells and barbells, that kind of stuff, and a bench. But if you've got that, you can do it. But it's a really simple routine, 3 days a week. But if you guys want that, that will be available to all the Patreon members. So you can go in there, log in, and you can get that access to that workout program, as well as everything else that we offer in there, which is podcast extras from the guests that we have on, ramblings that Eugene and I get into, warm-up routines. I mean, gosh, everything's in there. There's so much stuff in there. So dig into your heart's content. But if you want a workout routine that's simple and easy to follow, check it out. And right now what we're doing as well is for those people that are in the Patreon members, so there's 2 different tiers, by the way, when you get in there. And if you get the higher tier, you get all the stuff I just talked about, and you'll also get a chance to jump in on our Sunday live chats where we hang out. I hang out with different people, and they're usually either at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or 8 o'clock Eastern Standard. I've sort of flipped them back and forth to try to accommodate people around the world. And so we do that different thing, and we basically get together, chat. I'll typically talk about something that might be of use or value to someone, and then afterwards people can ask questions and things of that nature. So if you want to jump into that, patreon.com/the Chewjitsu Podcast, you jump on in there. And we're also doing something.
We're doing a giveaway. We're going to give away probably some gummies. So if you're a Patreon subscriber in the month of November, you can hop in the last day of November. If you are a Patreon subscriber in November, we're going to do a little giveaway. We're going to pick somebody randomly and send them some gummies, as long as it's legal in the part of the world that you live.
Yeah.
So
cool. So if you want to get that, check that out. And then, that's that. So guys, with all that said, let's get into the podcast. And let's talk about being in ruts, getting out of them, and then getting into that groove. What's up, guys? So today we were going to talk about blocks, ruts, and grooves. So I was reading a book. It's called The Creative Habit. It's by a woman named Twyla Tharp. I've talked about the book once before in the podcast, I believe. And she was a world famous dance choreographer and dancer herself. She formed a dance company, I think, in the 70s, I think it was. And she's done tons of different, dance. I don't know what the correct term is, right? But these dance performances, right? She's put them together, and she was talking about in the her sort of language. She was talking about blocks, ruts, and grooves, and I related with this so much, as I think a lot of you guys will. Where a block is essentially where nothing's happening, right? The engine's seized up, the car is turned off, ain't nothing happening. The ruts are where the tires are essentially stuck in mud, where they're spinning, but you're not going anywhere. And then grooves are where you're on the highway, you're in 5th gear or 6th gear or whatever, and you're just cruising. You're just the engine's just humming along, and wind's blowing through your hair or whatever, and you're just enjoying the ride. And so those are the sort of 3 places that she was talking about. And I thought about those for my own self, and it's funny because that day that I was reading that part of the book, I was in a rut. So recently I've been getting ready for a competition, and I've been doing a new diet, new training program. And one of the beautiful things about this new diet, as I've talked about, is, man, I feel great. I feel friggin' amazing. My joints, I'm still amazed by the joints. My energy levels are higher. I'm losing weight right now. Actually, I've kind of stopped. I've got to a maintenance point because I don't want to get too much lower than 198, so I'm just kind of hovering there. But my weight's come down. I don't feel a lack of energy. I feel very energetic. But the issue is that I'm 35 years old. And that's not old by any stretch, but when you're training at the capacity that I can train at, it's a lot. And I'm not 25. So I was I kept doing this on accident, going a couple weeks without off days. And so what happened was I ran into this wall a couple weeks ago on a Wednesday, Thursday. And I was just I didn't have any enthusiasm for training. And then I was supposed to have an off day on Thursday, last Thursday. We did suit rolling.
Yeah.
And then I ended up messing around. Friday I rolled. Saturday I rolled and lifted. Sunday I went up to train with my buddy in Indy, and we rolled hard for 2 hours.
Really?
Monday came back and rolled. We had a sweaty mess of a training session, but it was hot and humid. Basically just training too hard, and I felt it by Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I was just it's done. I've got to stop. What
did you feel? Did your performance kind of suffer at all? Did you feel like you didn't have that little pop?
For me, it's I didn't have pop, and I didn't have enthusiasm. I have enthusiasm for what I do, right? But my mind was, first off, my mind's not sharp. So I wasn't I couldn't do videos. I just I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the mindset to do videos and answer questions this week. When I was getting up in the morning, I was just tired, bro. I almost felt like I was getting sick.
Oh wow.
I was like, oh, this isn't good. Am I getting the COVID? The
old COVID.
Old COVID, right? I had one day I had like a migraine or something too. I just felt run down. I just felt generally mentally and physically run down. I remember after Wednesday, I did like a little bit in the morning. I taught class, and after that, I called it quits. I got a massage, and then I went home and then hung out with Jess for the whole day. Mm-hmm. On Thursday, I woke up, was still feeling funky. I slept in that day, slept until about 8, and which meant I got about 8.5 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. Slept until 8, got up. Actually, it was probably about closer to 9 hours of sleep because I went to sleep at around 11. It's about 9 hours of sleep. Got up at 8 o'clock. Just muddled around the house, was reading for a couple hours, laying there. I think at one point I was just kind of laying there listening to some Beethoven. I was just like listening to the music. Yeah. And I did the first half of the day. I was just kind of just doing nothing, and then listening to audiobooks or reading or music, and then I eventually had coffee at some point that day, and I started kind of getting moving, and I wrote. For about 4 hours that day. Just kind of
wrote for 4 hours.
About 4 hours, yeah. So I was writing. So I have one part of that writing was for a project I have coming up.
Yeah.
And the other part was just for my own sake. I just like to write different ideas and things like that I have coming up. And then I kind of hung around, but I didn't do anything. I just kind of trained. And then today, I feel so much better, right? And sometimes these ruts can be short like that. Sometimes they're longer. Sometimes those ruts can be like a week. Then I've had those. I get ruts like that typically after hard competitions. So after a hard competition which is probably what I'm going to do following this competition, I'm probably going to take about a week off, I think.
Okay.
At least 3 to 4 days off, because it always happens. I compete, and literally my mental energy's whenever I do something, it's just my body's just done.
We have this high rate, like you're going at this on all these emotional, physical,
sure.
Mental. Everything is culminating at this competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're trying to get everything peaking. You can't that's the thing. If you peak too early, your performance is going to suffer. You have to kind of so you're kind of have to dial everything in. You have to pay. It's almost exhausting to pay attention to everything. Mm-hmm. How you're training, how much you're training, what you're eating, is your weight on point? Or if you have all your travel arrangements figured out. There's a lot that goes into it. Making sure you're. And plus, there's some nervous. For me, there's nervousness.
Sure.
I don't know how it is for you, but there's always some. There's some type of, you get a little jittery. There's a lot of extra energy that goes into just controlling the nerves and using those in a positive way.
Right. Well, even a friend of mine in Kansas, he's a sports scientist, and he we were talking about that after competitions, people he has this spreadsheet that he sent me where he's measuring grip strength,
yeah,
HRV and some other stuff.
Yeah.
And they found that all the markers for whether or not you're rested, they tanked after a competition, after a weightlifting competition, because it's so much goes into it, yeah. Right? And so your nervous system is fried. And so again, during those same sort of ruts, I kind of back off a little bit. And so where I'm getting with this today, guys, is that we're talking about this, and I figured I would just share some ideas with you because one question that does come up fairly often on the channel from YouTube and from the podcast and everything else is, what do you do when you're in a rut?
Yeah.
And you can use this. I do the same processes that I'm going to share in just a minute, whether I'm in a rut with jiu-jitsu or something else. It doesn't really change. But I've heard so many people talk about they're in a rut with training, a rut with, you can get into ruts with your relationships. You can get in ruts with your life. You can just get in ruts, and again, where you're just kind of spinning the wheels and even blocks. And so we'll kind of talk about the kind of some of the things that I like to do, to get through these. So the first thing when it comes to being in a rut, we'll talk about blocks later on, but let's talk about ruts where you're spinning the wheels, but nothing really seems like it's happening.
Okay. Do you feel like that's a precursor to a block? Like you get a rut first, and then you
It can be.
Okay.
It can be, yeah. Well, we'll get to the blocks after we talk about the ruts, because the blocks, I think, as I'll talk about later, I think a lot of times they come from the block.
I'm thinking of these 3 things we talked about as a car being stuck in the mud. Mm-hmm. You might be, so you're in a rut, you're spinning your wheels in mud, you're not going anywhere, and then eventually you just stop. You're like, well, shit, I'm not getting anywhere. Yeah. So then you're in a block, and you have to figure out how to get out of it. So I guess I could see both chicken or the egg type thing.
Mm-hmm. So with a rut, the first thing, and I'll do this with blocks too, but the blocks don't happen very often.
Okay.
But the ruts, they come. I make no judgment about it.
Okay.
So a lot of times when we're not on our game, we don't feel like we're sharp, feel like we're a little off. A lot of times we pass judgment on it, because for instance, I remember when I first started kind of even identifying these things, especially when I do creative work or training or whatever, like how many of you guys listening have had an off day when you're training and you feel like something's wrong?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had an off day in training, and it frustrates you and it eats you up all damn day. It's like, bro, chill out. You're going to have off days. Everybody's done it. I've done it. Leave like banging your head on the friggin' steering wheel all peed off because, you had an off day. With me, sometimes, I'll do the videos, and the videos are very much a creative expression. And sometimes they feel off, and I'm like, I don't want to feel off. I want to feel on,
What do you feel like? So if it's off, what tells you that it's off? Like, what are you looking for? Like in a video, for example.
It's not about. I'm not looking at anything. I'm talking about how I feel.
Okay.
Right? Because a lot of times it's like you can feel. Like obviously with a competition or a role, you get beat up by people that are better than you, whatever. But that doesn't even mean you're in a rut. Right? Because they could have just gotten a little bit better, and you could have been the same, and they got better.
Sure.
But the rut, a lot of times, is more of a feeling.
Okay.
Where you feel. Because everybody knows when they're in a rut. Because like if you go hard and you're having a great training session, but you just someone got the better of you, but you felt great about it, that's not a rut. A rut is where you feel like just you're off. Everything's off. And everybody knows what that feeling is. It's hard to put your finger on. It's hard to quantify. A lot of times for me with the videos, it's where my thoughts just are not popping like they normally do, where my ability to chain together ideas is not where it wants to be, and a lot of times where the ideas don't seem to float up to the surface as easily as they normally do. Because a lot of times I don't script the videos. I read the question, I think about it a little bit, and then pop on it, and then a lot of times the ideas come.
Gotcha.
So it's not so much that something that I'm doing, because a lot of times people can't see, but it's the way that I'm able to deliver things and think about things in a certain way. And with the training, it's the same way. A lot of times I can still get by with my training, and people wouldn't know the difference, but I know the difference. Now, sometimes people can notice the difference like that if they've known me long enough. Like Fleener, one of the guys that trains with me, been with us for about 10 years. He said Tuesday, he's like, I could tell you were a little off Tuesday, because I just a little run down. But first thing is I don't make any judgment about it. And I say this because a lot of times, again, going back to it, people want to make a judgment about it, and there is nothing to judge, right? It just is. It's one of these things where people want to be running high all the time, right?
Yeah.
They want to feel like they're on top of everything, but there is no high without a low. There's no sweet without a sour. There's no up without a down, no dark without a light, right? And so when you have those moments where you're dipping and you can feel it coming, first thing is you don't make a judgment out of it. I don't make a judgment out of it. And then the second thing that I do is, along with not making a judgment, I just ride the wave. Right? So I don't try to force myself out of it, because if you try to force it through, I think when you try to force a rut, like force yourself out of a rut, it's like spinning the tires, and you just keep getting deeper until all of a sudden you're stuck in the mud and you ain't getting out anytime soon.
Yeah.
And that's to me where the blocks a lot of times come from, where people are like training and their body's telling them, hey, take a day off, rest, relax, do nothing. Even I was fighting with that yesterday. I was like, maybe I could work out a little bit today. I was like, no, today's rest day. Or when I, have like a week or something where I'm just a little off, there's that side of me that says, dude, we got to do something. Let's do something. We got to get after it and whatever. And instead of honoring what's going on in me, right? And so I don't want to honor it. Whenever I try to do this, it never works out.
Yeah.
But when I ride the wave and just ride it down, then it's almost like, doing some of the other things I'm going to talk about in a minute, I'm able to figure out a way to get that tire out of there. And then it's like, boom, I'm going. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of ride the wave down. I just kind of like let it happen. So I make no judgment about it, and I just allow myself to sort of honor that. I think of it as it's kind of winter, and it can't be summer all the time,
right?
I guess unless you're in maybe like certain parts of California, right? But it can't be summer all the time. So there's going to be winter in your body, just like seasons, right? And so I'm just letting it be winter a little bit and being okay with that. And then during that period where I'm down, whether that's a couple days or a week or whatever it might be, some of the things that I'll do is one of the big things is try to do something different. This could be read something different. It could be like in jiu-jitsu, doing different techniques. If it's in a relationship, just doing something different together, just changing things up. I feel like a lot of times ruts happen because we get stuck in the same old routines and patterns, and you're just kind of going through the motions, right? There's nothing there to spark newness to it. But by just changing things up a lot of times, just maybe taking a short trip somewhere, maybe doing something differently, going to a different place that you normally go to, whatever it might be, like there's a million different ways you can do this, but just changing something up has a really beneficial effect in my view of kind of working yourself out of it. Like for me, one of the things that I might do is for jiu-jitsu, find some new techniques.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go find something new to play with. I want to get a new position or get some new gear. Gear is always fun. Like, I got a new gi. I'm gonna go wear the gi now, right? That's always kind of fun. Or when it comes to some of the videos and stuff like that I do, I will read through different books or different things, and even try to do different types of videos. Like I'm going to try to do a different type of video, just something to spark the newness there. Or I'll completely just detach from everything, and I'll just do something completely different. And that's where like a lot of times my little mini vacations come from, where I go by myself to vacation or whatever. Just do something completely out of the ordinary, because it's interesting because after those points where I do something different, there's like this. It's like the stock market. When you look at stock market, there's crashes and corrections, and then after that, typically it jumps up even faster than it was.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. A lot of times when I ride that down and just let it happen, and then sort of start to take in more information or do different things, then go up, then it seems like I come back faster. And in his essay, The American Scholar, Ralph Waldo Emerson, he says that something to the effect of, you use books and information essentially to fill you up when the light dims. So when your light begins to dim, you go and read your books and do all that stuff, study, whatever else. But then when the sun begins to rise back up, get out there and create, get out there and do stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's during those periods of where I'm just kind of not really in the mood to be active. All right, well, that's where I'm gonna start like taking in more stuff, and then wait for it, and then boom, I'll come back.
Yeah, you're searching for inspiration. You're searching for maybe a different idea.
I don't know that I'm searching for inspiration. I think it has more to do with I just need new. It's almost like new raw material to work with, so to speak. Because I'm not really looking. Inspiration's one thing, but it's not. I don't need to be inspired to do something. I just need something new to work with.
Well, like ideas, I guess, like a different idea.
I think of it as like building blocks.
Okay.
Right. So it's like I want some new toys. Right. I just want some new toys to mess with. Right. Like I'm not ultra inspired by them. I just know that like if I start playing around with some new stuff, fun stuff happens. I'm just getting some new toys to play with.
Yeah.
Some new materials to work with. I guess you could say you could get inspired by it to some degree, but a lot of times I don't feel inspired when I get it. I get excited and motivated afterwards. Right. This is something I've been thinking about a bunch recently anyways, like with motivation, because this kind of goes along with motivation.
Yeah.
Motivation for me, I keep thinking about this. I've been chewing on this idea for a bit. I get motivated after I start something. I don't really get that. I don't get motivated really to do anything in the beginning. It's like I pick something that I want to do and I do it. And then after I do it and something starts kind of getting moving, then I'm motivated. I don't get motivated before. I'm not like, yes, I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. I'm like, I'm going to do this. Let's see what happens. And then after something starts and I kind of get the ball rolling, then I get excited.
Yeah.
So for me, motivation is kind of like a byproduct and not so much of a reason or whatever.
Like a reason. It's not something that you use to start something. It's more something that like when you do find a desire to do something, motivation comes along with as you start. For example, like in jiu-jitsu is a perfect example. You start jiu-jitsu, maybe you start to have some success in jiu-jitsu. You hit a submission, you hit a sweep, whatever. You're like, oh, you get motivated, you get excited. Like, again, this is working.
Yes.
What I'm learning is I'm able to put it into use. And
that's motivating.
It's motivating because you're like, I want to do that again. Well, I want to get that feeling. You're chasing that feeling that you get.
Well, even like your wife, right? She just put up her online course.
Yeah.
And she just made her first sale.
Yep.
Right? That's motivating.
It is.
Because it's like I did something and I got some feedback from it. And it was positive feedback, right? And same thing with jiu-jitsu. You do something, like I said, get a submission and you get positive feedback, that's motivating.
Sure.
Right? Like, but the beginning is kind of nerve-wracking. Right? Because like, when I remember going to my first jiu-jitsu class, I was excited to do it and I wanted to do it. I was also nervous.
Yeah, of course.
I remember, making some of my early videos back in the day. I was kind of nervous about them because it was new. I could talk to the guys all day long in the gym, but now I'm putting myself out there with with trolls on the internet that could, make fun of me, which they do. I got a few fun names for you guys later on. We'll do it at the end of the podcast.
Few fun names.
Well, not a fun name, but some of the recent troll activity. I'll tell you guys about it later. But so that sort of thing. So a lot of times it's like I start and I make a decision to do something, and then the motivation follows as a byproduct, and the motivation kind of keeps me going afterwards. But it doesn't really come in the beginning. And so again, by allowing myself to kind of have some new stuff to play with, it just makes things a little bit more. I get more enthusiastic about doing something again, because I'm like, ooh, it's something new, it's novelty, and then that kind of gets the ball rolling again. I seem to start going. Like I remember the last little rut that I had, sort of creatively with some of the work that I do. I was like, well, I'm going to read something completely out of the normal that I read. So I started reading. I bought it a while ago, but I didn't read it. Rumi. He was a Persian mystic, like a poet, but he's got some interesting, he has some interesting writings and poems and stuff like that. So I just went through and started reading his writings as just kind of a way to read something completely out of the norm that I'm reading. And I got some, it was very the information was very nourishing in a way.
Okay.
I felt like I was scratching an itch, or filling myself up with a different type of brain food that I didn't normally.
What if somebody's not a reader? I mean, you're a big reader, but what if somebody's looking to get out of a rut, and they're not?
What kind of rut?
Well, I don't know.
What kind of rut are they?
Say maybe it depends on.
Because it depends on what the rut is. Because I'm not going to read to get out of a jiu-jitsu rut. I'm going to study course material or watch matches.
Well, would you ever even would you separate? One thing that I've done, if I feel kind of burned out, I would think of myself as being burned out on something. I'm I'm tired of it. I take some distance. I separate myself from it for a little while. It's kind of like if I have a problem I'm trying to solve, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. I have to almost step back and get my mind away from it, and then get a fresh lens.
Sure. I mean, if you're that far gone, where if you're that far gone where you feel like you're almost burned out and you're just I don't even want to be around this right now, then that's where the solo vacations come in.
Yeah.
And that's where taking a week off from training or something like that, that's where that comes in. Because, for instance, if you take off a week from training, then you're itching to get back.
Right.
And so that. So yeah, if you're really to the point where you're really getting flustered by it, or you just don't even want to be around it, it's a good idea to take some distance and get away from it and do something different.
I think a big hang up for me, or even a lot of people that are so used to training consistently, is the conditioning we have. It's we feel like we should be. If we're not doing this, we're wasting our time. Our conditioning tells us we're so used to training, we need to be in the gym consistently, training. It's hard to overcome that because for example, you were doing, say you're doing work, some type of work, and I should be doing something right now. Same thing for me. I should be editing a video. I should be editing a podcast. I should be doing something. And it's hard. It makes it very difficult to be present, in the moment, just enjoy the moment you're in, because your head's trying to figure something out. And sometimes you just have to stop that whole mess and just be where you are and be present for a little while, and then it'll kind of revitalize you.
And that goes back to the making a judgment, right? You make a judgment on yesterday I was laying on the couch for a couple hours, right? And there is a part of me that's I should probably be doing something.
You're telling yourself you're lazy.
Yeah,
I'm a lazy piece of
crap.
I
didn't say I was lazy, because it's I was I just feel like I should be doing something.
Yes,
but at the same time, I understand the difference though, because when I would do that back in the day, where I would make a judgment and I would force myself to work or whatever, the work was never as good. The training was never as good. Sometimes I would get sick because I would overtrain and get to the point where I run my body down and get sick. And I run into all these other problems. And then even then, it's I when it comes back to my work, nothing really got done. It's okay, I went through the motions.
Yes.
But I didn't really get anything done of quality, nothing usable. Whereas if I take that time off and allow myself to do whatever it is, like I said, to take the distance, to get away from it, to relax, to be lazy, to enjoy being lazy a little bit, right? Then it's better quality work comes later on. I come back, I can train harder the next day. I mean, all these positive benefits, and so it's useful to do that.
Well, you had this similar situation, when you were running all those classes and doing the online business and all that stuff, and you got to where the one thing I remember I could tell, and even you've had some instances, usually it's not physically that I can tell that you're maybe a little bit physically, but more your energy level. I can tell by your personality, how much energy you
Sure.
give off.
Mhm.
Like, because I mean, skill wise, like in the gym, you're pretty much better than everyone, and you know if you have to turn it on, you can handle everyone, right?
Sure, yeah.
And so it's not a skill thing. It's more of like your interactions. Like you're just kind of like, it's more
A little shorter.
Yeah, you're kind of like, it's not that you're like pissed off or anything. It's just like you're just like usually like, hey, I'm Chewy, you know.
Well, right. There's
like
a
a little
contrast.
bubbly. You're kind of
Yeah.
a bubbly dude. Yeah, there's definitely contrast, and that's the main thing I can tell. It's just
Right.
kind of you're just not the same energy wise.
Right, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I like being like that energetic guy. And and it's funny because if I'm not energetic, people then it almost comes across as I'm being short with people.
Something's wrong.
Right.
What's
Well,
wrong, Chewy?
I was like, I'm not mad at you. I was like, I literally just don't have that energy today.
Yeah.
You know, and so it comes across because like most of the time I'm super energetic.
Right.
You know, and so back in 2017 when I was doing all that stuff, there were nights, bro, where I was just, and I remember what would typically happen back then is I would run myself into the ground because I was telling myself I had to. And, you know, there's a time to do this, by the way. Like, I mean, again, I don't want to say that you can't do this because most of the time when you see people get things started, you got to kind of grind a little bit. Like you got to be willing to kind of eat crap for a little bit, and then you get past it, right? Like for me, like, you know, that 2017 year was this 2016 to 17 year was very necessary, and it was kind of something I just had to do. I had to pay my dues to get things off the ground. Mm-hmm. Once the ball's rolling, though, okay, there's another way to do this stuff. But I was wiped out. Dude.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're just quality of, like you said, the quality of everything, even like, you know, just instruction. I don't remember how your instruction was. I mean, it's always been great.
Well, I mean, the instruction probably was fine, but my ability to be like excited with you guys and to give you guys energy was not there. And I'll tell you what, a lot of times what would end up happening is I would do that for a few days and I would crash. I would like go hard for about 2-3 days, and then I would sleep in for like 10 hours and then like a day because I just couldn't go.
Yeah.
Or I remember at one point I got myself sick because I was trying to train too hard and I was trying to do everything, and I remember, you know, thinking to myself, stop being a wimp, get out there and do stuff, don't be lazy, do whatever, grind, hustle, whatever.
That's all you hear, grind.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about the hustle, whatever. And then going out there and get sick, it's like now I was down for a week. You know, like when I could have just taken a day off and I would have been fine. So it's just one of those things where I feel like when you try to push yourself through sometimes those ruts where you're just not quite there, it's better to just kind of back off the pedal a little bit and then, you know, like I said, do something different a little bit and then come back to it. It's not going anywhere. You're not going to lose all your progress. You're not going to lose everything, you know, and then come back. And then, you know, even like from relationships, I like getting, like you're saying, taking some distance. I like getting away from Jess every now and then. Not because I want to get away from her, but it allows me to appreciate her better.
Sure.
You know, because like, for instance, like when you go on a diet and you cut out sweet stuff, you have a new appreciation for that sweet stuff you've been eating because like you eat it again, you're like, oh my God, this is so good, right? It's like a mouthgasm, you know? You know, but it's the same thing, like, you know, I might go on a camping trip or a little solo vacation and being away from Jess for a couple of days, I'm like, man, I miss her. She's a good woman. Like, I'm glad I have her in my life, right? And so you get some distance from it. And that can even happen with jiu-jitsu where sometimes people, they forget that they have this thing that's so fun and they just run themselves down as they're doing it. And then you take a couple of days off. You're like, man, I want to train. I miss training. You know, I mean, we all had this, you know, some people still have it right now, but everybody had this with the lockdowns where this thing was taken away from them for a while. And now you have this different appreciation for it because it was taken away. And so sometimes you can manually do that. You can just kind of take things away from yourself. And so that you have a new appreciation for it and a new sense of gratitude for that thing.
Yeah, I think a couple things happen there. You get out of the rhythm. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's hard to get it going again. And I think we've talked a little bit about that as well. Like somebody that maybe is newer to training, like somebody that's possibly, you know, they hit their groove, they were doing well, learning, and then lockdown, COVID, boom, nothing. Mm-hmm. And now like to get the ball rolling again, it's tough. Like some of these people have a hard time doing that. Well, like for some of it's ingrained in us now. At this point, it's just like, you know, we're going back regardless of what the situation is. We're eventually going to get back to training. Mm-hmm. You know, so a newer white belt may have a harder time, especially because you feel kind of now you're kind of more isolated. You know, like I think you get this distance from your friends and everyone. So like, I don't know. Like I think it's harder to get back to it for some of these people that have been haven't really ingrained these patterns in their life, you know. So what do you think? Like maybe somebody that started, maybe they trained 6 months, were doing well, making a lot of progress, and they realize, you know, life's all right without jiu-jitsu. I can live life. Is it worth coming back and risking stuff?
Mm-hmm. What would I say to them?
Sure.
I don't know.
What do you recommend?
I mean, it depends on what they want to do.
Just show up?
I mean, it just depends. Like, so for me, I like training.
I do.
Training is one of the few things, like, where I look back at it, like, that I haven't gotten bored with. I get bored with things a lot of times. Like, I just don't really get that interested in most things. There's very few things that I can look at over my lifetime where I'm like, this has been a constant. Even like video games. Video games kind of bore me. Like, I might play them for a little bit, and then I'm just kind of like,
I'm the same way.
I'm just kind of bored with it. It's like, whatever. But a lot of the things that I'm doing elsewhere, like in my life, I enjoy, right? Like all the things that I do essentially for a career at this point, like I've enjoyed. But I did them even before I was getting paid.
Yes.
You know, like I was doing jiu-jitsu, and I just love jiu-jitsu. So when I was coming back, like for instance, I had injuries at some point, and some of those injuries, and even work-related stuff, and they've taken me out for I think it's close to almost a year and a half total between injuries, work, and everything else. And at no point did I ever consider just not doing it. You know, and again, I think that's where it's like, it's just different. Maybe it's because I didn't have as many options. I wasn't thinking about things, and maybe I'm kind of simple in that way. But I just was like, this is what I want to do. So when I get back, I'm going to go back. There is no not going back, you know. And if someone's on the fence about it, I mean, that's fine. Jiu-jitsu is not it for everybody. Mm-hmm. Anybody can be good at jiu-jitsu. Anybody can do jiu-jitsu, but it's not for everybody. There's a difference, right? Because some people just, you know, again, they're not really that into it. They have other things that they want to do, and that's fine. There's no problem about that. But I don't know. It's like if you need. I just can't understand. So my thing is it's hard for me to wrap my head around, and I know this is not the normal thing, right? Because everybody's different. And I have trouble sometimes empathizing with people with certain things because, like, you know, for instance, I'm like, I don't understand why you just don't do this. I understand that I don't understand, right? So I make no judgment about you.
Right. It's not wrong.
It's not wrong. It's if that's how you're feeling, it's absolutely right because that's how you feel.
Yep.
But I just don't understand, right? Yeah. So for me, like, if I want to do something, well, then I'm just going to do it. And that's just the way it's going to be, right? Like, I mean, why not? Right? You know, I mean, like, there's no reason not to. So, for instance, coming back at it, like, I remember coming back from injuries. It was I was itching to get back. I wanted to put those patterns back in place. I came back and, like, was out of breath and wore out and tired, but I was happy that I was back. Mm-hmm. I got my face smashed when I came back from, you know, resting. I remember coming back as a blue belt in jiu-jitsu back to the gym because I was like, after my first injury, I was a fresh blue belt. And I remember
your knee?
It was first it was a spider bite. Oh, then it was a meniscus tear. And then I came back. It's 3 months out. And I remember even after I started jiu-jitsu for a few weeks, competed, won second place, and then afterwards, Chris, my buddy that was training with me, I didn't have a driver's license till I was 19. Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't have a driver's license till I was 19. I didn't have a car. It was like there was no incentive for me to get a driver's license. I didn't have a car. I was poor, right? So was given a car by my dad, and then when I was 19, so I was like, I got a driver's license, and also because I was like trying to see this girl. It's funny how a woman will drive a guy to do stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Anyway, that'll get you out of a rut.
You know, you were talking about you and Jess kind of taking space. Like when Mish and I have, like, because we have two kids and they're young, they're both like five, one's 5, one's 3, and so what we try to do is actually get alone time together. Mm-hmm. Like we try to actually,
which is the different for you guys.
Yes, so we like set up a date. Like date night's like huge for us. Yeah, because it's hard to, even right now it's really hard to do because it's hard to get a babysitter because everybody's like keeping their distance and stuff. So that's the thing we do now is like we try to get some alone time because you get in a rut. You're like, I'm just going through the motions, I'm just doing laundry, I'm just feeding the kids.
Sure,
and, you know. So I don't know. It's just a different thing. It makes me like remember to like when it was just my wife and I.
Yeah.
And like we had all this time, and I was like, oh, we need to, you know, go do your thing. I'll go do my thing, and then we'll hang out. We've got plenty of time. And now it's just like, can we get a little time together? Yeah. It's just how the dynamics change so much. It's interesting.
That's funny.
But it's always, relationships always change. You know, it's always a growing thing.
Yeah, but it goes back to that. Like, you don't need you don't need some sort of motivation to like spend time with your woman. You're just like, I want to spend time with my with my wife, right? And same thing. It's like if you're coming back from lockdown, or if you're like whatever, whenever you're listening to this, or you had an injury like I did, it's time to come back.
It is.
Like, I mean, for me, like I was out of breath, I was out of shape, got smashed a bunch, but so what? My first, like I said, I was off for when Chris's job changed.
Yeah.
So I was off after that first few weeks for about 5 months.
Yeah.
Came back, and I was ready to go, right?
Yep. It was, coming back after a long layoff is kind of motivating, too. To me, it's motivating.
How so?
Because I find all these holes in my game, or all these places where I've kind of, I got to catch back up, or this person, we were close. We were neck and neck. Now all of a sudden, they're getting me. They've worked on this technique. They're giving me a perfect example. When I first came back, Justin Court was working on his, his head control, all that stuff, like those front headlock stuff. He just put me in that shit over and over, and I was like, damn, I need to get better.
Yeah.
So it was kind of motivating for me to like see if, all right, can I figure this out? Can I get a little better at this? Can I improve my game? And it's going to make me better. It's going to give me a direction. So it was nice because it gives you sometimes, you realize what you need to work on. And so you can take it as like, shit, I suck. But I've been at jiu-jitsu too long to be like, shit, I suck. Like, let's figure this out. I've gotten as far as I've gotten. I must not suck that bad.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like going back to the distance thing, right? Two things about it. One is that I think it gives, like I said, it gives you an appreciation for things, right? Because you had something taken away, or you're starving yourself of it to some degree, right? Like even with stimulation, like if one of the things I did to kind of break my social media habit was took them all off my phone, and then I've added Instagram back. But I noticed that I don't check it very often because I broke that repetitive cycle, right? Like I put them in weird places on my phone where I can't just click to them. Like they're not on the main screen, so it's like I have to go find them or whatever. So it kind of like threw my routine off, right? Because that's like a lot of times with people's habits and addiction, right? Like if I was the guy, one of the friends that he quit smoking, one of the things he did is he started driving a different route to work. Because his body was like, you go to work and we go this way, then you light up a cigarette, right? So he started changing all of his routines that he did day to day where he would smoke cigarettes, and he said it helped out a lot. And so again, for me, like I got rid of all the social media stuff for a while, and then I added Instagram back, and then I use it sometimes to post, but otherwise I don't really touch most of it. And I should check it a little bit, right? Sure. But it broke that seal of me always wanting to fudge with it. And so like sometimes, kind of shaking out of that sort of thing, that'll do it. I don't know where I was going with it. Oh, but manually doing that, right? So you can like manually sort of starve yourself of the stimulation and then add it back in later on. Or if you go on a diet, a lot of times you don't appreciate the foods that you have. Then if you go on like a kind of a bland diet and then all of a sudden you eat something really good, oh man. Like Jess and I, we went and had Cuban food a while ago, and I had the salmon and it's called salmon pibble. I don't know what that is, but it's some sort of green sauce and it has rice and like these onions on it, and the fried plantains.
Oh yeah, y'all go to where'd y'all go?
Guacamole.
Guacamole.
We love guacamole. Okay. Yeah, so dude, it's so good. I was telling Jess, it's like a mouthgasm. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Delicious.
It was delicious. Oh, dude, it's just so good. Anyway, but I appreciate that food even more because I've been eating, chicken and rice and potatoes and
pretty bland stuff.
It's good. I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. But man, like you have a new appreciation for that food that you're getting. And so, thinking about that, like whether it's forced upon you or you manually do it sometimes, taking a little bit of distance, or getting away from something, then kind of gives you that you get the appreciation for it. And also with that, sometimes we get too close to the tree to see the forest. You kind of miss the whole big picture because you're too close on this, focus on this one damn thing. So sometimes if you take that distance back, it kind of puts things into perspective.
That's exactly the word that was in my head, swirling on perspective. Yeah. You're changing the perspective, changing the lens you're looking through. You're moving back a little bit, widening your gaze. You're seeing, that's all you're doing. You're changing your perspective. You're giving yourself a different way to look at this situation.
Right. Well, and that's behavioral psychology, right? They say it's not, and even Epictetus, you read his stuff, with Epictetus, it's not about, essentially paraphrasing here, it's not about the situation. It's about how you take it. It's about how you perceive it. Yes. So it's the way that you take it on. So, just like I said, someone can be like, you had a rough day, you had an off day. And then you can start to criticize yourself or whatever and beat yourself up over it. Or you can just be okay with it and say, this is just what's going on right now. Let's ride the wave. You know, because people are really neurotic. You know, if
right here, baby.
Yeah, I mean, everybody. I think everybody is. I think we're all neurotic. We all put on this nice face, but deep down, like especially like when we're doing certain things, we're neurotic, right? Like if you're a person that does any kind of creative work, whether you play music or you do videos or whatever, I mean, you can be incredibly neurotic. I used to have, when I first started doing the videos, like, and even competing, you can become incredibly superstitious, right? Like, have you seen like where sports athletes where they eat the same foods because they won this game, so they keep eating the same thing, or they wear the same shirt, all this kind of stuff. And so people are neurotic about like things that are trivial that make no difference about anything, but they keep doing it.
It's control. It's a way to control your environment,
right? The food would probably be something that could make a difference, but most of it, right? Wearing the same T-shirt, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference. But yeah, it's adding some control. To an otherwise chaotic and uncontrollable situation. But again, sometimes you can go so far with that you can get yourself neurotic and worked up, and it's not going to be helpful for the long term.
It can have the inverse effect. Like if your situation, if you can't control it now, if you can't, oh God, I gotta have this. I forgot my lucky shirt at home. That's it. Mm-hmm. You could be completely out of your element because you're trying to go to this situation or this environment that's kind of foreign or uncertain, but you're trying to control whatever.
You're trying to recreate the same conditions over and over and over again.
I remember watching, I think it was like a documentary on Dustin Poirier, and he would, I think it was Fightland is what it's called, and he would like buy the same boxers, a new pack of boxers, the same chewing gum. He'd have like the boxers and the chewing gum at like weigh-ins every single time. Yeah. And I think Conor McGregor, they were fighting before that, and like Conor McGregor was like messing with him about it. He's like, like that stuff's not going to make any difference. Like you have to have all these little like things that make you feel comfortable. Like it's not going to, so it kind of gives people some ammunition for you as well, I guess. It can motivate your opponents in some ways. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, but I was just thinking about that. I like to do it. Like I wear like a certain, like the same shoes. Like I wear the same shoes at a tournament. Yeah. I would do that.
I used to wear the same stuff to fights and tournaments. I remember like there was one point where I used to wear the same pair of shorts if I was coaching. Really? Yeah. I used to wear the same pair of shorts if I was coaching at an MMA fight. Had the same pair of shorts on. They were a pair of like cargo shorts. I could stuff all the tape and stuff in the sides and everything else. But I just wore them because guys were winning. So I was like, I've got to wear these shorts.
So crazy.
The silly stuff that we do. And I remember even like when I first started winning matches pretty consistently at black belt, I remember I was wearing a shirt. And I remember that was the shirt that I was wearing during my warm-ups before the match. And so I started wearing that shirt before every match. And I kept winning. And I was like, well, it must be the shirt. It has nothing to do with my training. It has nothing to do with my diet, my desire or focus. It has just the shirt.
I do think the shirt has something to do with it, though.
Yeah, what's that?
It gives you a sense of ease, of calm.
Maybe.
I think it does. I think it gives you some...
It's like a blanket.
Yeah, you feel comfortable. Like, all right, I'm not expending all this extra energy on stuff. Like,
isn't that funny though? Like we, we're kids. We have a little blankie. We have something like that. Dude. And now as adults, we've got blankies. Except for we changed what they are. Like it's my lucky shirt, or it's my pre this that ritual. That's my blankie.
My daughter has a stuffed cow, and I kid you not. She forgot it at school one day.
Oh, no.
And she cried for like 3 hours.
Whoa.
Before she cried herself to sleep. She was not having it. I was like, it's a damn cow. I hope we started looking on the internet for like the same stuffed cow. Couldn't find it. I don't know where we got it.
Damn.
So when that thing is done, it is, all hell's going to break loose in my house.
Oh, no.
But, I used to like, I do think I have that. And it's a little bit about personality, like a type A personality, wanting to be in control of your environment.
Sure.
So I definitely would have like little things I would do, or I don't know.
And sometimes you got to be out of control.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to be okay with it, right? You just got to kind of ride the wave.
Yeah, you're out of control, and then you still have success, and you're like, oh, wait a second, I didn't need this.
Yeah,
lucky shirt.
Exactly, right? Because then sometimes the conditions aren't the same,
so
everything works fine. You're like, whatever. It's like, for instance, sometimes with competitions or whatever, I didn't really prepare for them the way that I wanted to, and I went out and won them. Like, oh wow, yeah. I did great.
I was like sick a couple times. I had better performances when I was like, I remember one time I was like, I think I got food poisoning like the night before, and like I was supposed to be on weight and I was way under, and I was like, all right, well, whatever happens, happens. You kind of almost have no expectation. You well, I'm already at a disadvantage, so whatever happens, happens. So I kind of have you almost have an out. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, and then you do better.
Yep. And then one thing about the groove. So one thing.
Talk about the groove.
Yeah, the grooves. The groove is just where things are happening, right? One thing to sort of consider with the groove, and this is something I've found with just my training and my work that I do and everything else that's going on, is that I try to stop before I'm done. So basically, even with training, like training for me it's all about long-term consistency. I remember when I was younger, I would try to train so hard that I had nothing left in that day, and I would try to do it again the next day and so on. I find that I get better results from training hard, or training at a good pace, but then leaving a little bit left. Then tomorrow I can do it again. Granted, I still get tired and I still, get some great work in and stuff like that. It's not like I'm not working hard, but just not dumping everything that I got. I'm not going like balls out crazy every single day, leaving a little bit left.
So you mean like exhaustion wise? Like,
well, yeah, like basically like where like physically I cannot roll again. I'm just done. Like I don't like to get to that point. I think there's a point where like literally like when I was up training with some friends recently, we trained for an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes rolling, and so I was at a point where I was just like, you know what, I feel done. I'm done. I still got a little bit left in me. I could roll a few more, but I'm getting tired. And I've already been going for an hour and 40 minutes. I'm done, and I'm just gonna back off, and so I can train the next day. And even with lifting weights, I'm not trying to lift weights to the point where I can't move. I want to stimulate and not annihilate myself. And even with my work, like a lot of times, I might sometimes feel like I have more in me with like some of my writing or my videos or whatever we're working on, and I kind of just stop. I just like, you know what, I'm going to leave a little bit because I don't know who the writer was. I was listening to there's a book called it's about artists' habits.
Okay.
I'll look it up while we're talking, but basically it's a book on the different habits that these different artists and creative people's had. And so for me, I kind of just wanted to listen to it, and I thought it was interesting. And so one of the things that I found was that by going through this, you'd hear these little interesting like ways of doing things. And one of them, here we go, Daily Rituals. It's by Mason Curry. And basically it's a book where they just talk about the different rituals that these artists went through, right? And their daily rituals that they would go through. And some of them were crazy and chaotic. Some of them were very structured and ordered. But there was one that I remember listening to, and I cannot remember who it was. It was a pretty well-known writer. Maybe it may have been Hemingway. I'm not sure. But he said that he would never end. Like he would never he would never get to the point with his writing where he was like, I have nothing left. He would save a little bit. This way, tomorrow you come in and you still got a little bit left, instead of getting to that point. And I found this out to where, and essentially this goes back to, I'm making the mistake right now that I'm telling you guys not to make. So with my diet was being so good, I was in a groove, bro. Training hard, feeling great, energetic, and I'm training too much. And I was getting to that point where I was training myself to exhaustion, and then I've got to like run into a wall and take a couple days off. Whereas if I would mitigate the training a little bit and just sort of lighten up on a couple days and then ramp them back up, I wouldn't have to take off really much at all because I would just keep going.
Yeah.
But it would be one of these things where I would like end up doubling up on training and then doing a lifting session and just train too much.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just kind of left a little bit left, I could keep going every day or almost every day or whatever, and I wouldn't run into these like walls. And so it's the same thing. I do that pretty much with everything when I'm. And again, maybe because I'm getting ready for a competition, I'm maybe trying to kick it up a little bit too much. But most of the time when I'm cognizant of it, I try to maintain a steady pace that I can maintain easily. And whenever I get to that point where I'm starting to like kind of, there's a little bit left, but I can feel that I'm starting to fade, I back off.
Yeah.
Back off, and then I'll just save a little gas in the tank for the next day. And then It also, it helps me kind of get started for the next day because I'm like, okay, here's where I'm stopping. All right, I'm coming back tomorrow.
You have a starting point. You have to like, I got to start all over, figure this out, or come to like an idea.
Yeah.
Like say you're writing, like you write all the time. It's like you leave a little bit. It's like, okay, I have a starting point for my next idea, and then I'm going to have something else grow from it.
Exactly. Because like it's like if I go into it and I exhaust myself to the point where then like I'm out, I'm tapped. Well, then it's like now I've got to like go back. Okay, what's next? Whereas if you go and you've already kind of got somewhere to start with, and then that's like that, it kind of gets you flowing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing even with training though, because you can get yourself so exhausted that you just don't have anything left in you, and you're lethargic, and you don't feel good, and you've pushed yourself too far to the point where now when you come back, you're just not going to have it, and you're going to have to go and just take a day off or rest or whatever. Otherwise, you're just going to keep spinning the wheels.
Yeah, I think like you were talking about getting sick. to me, and like it's pretty amazing how your body has these checks and balances kind of built in. It's letting you know, it's like you got little warning signs going off, and then it's like, well, all right, you've kind of overstep the boundary, overstep kind of the capacity that the body has to, same thing with like an injury. It's like your body's got this capacity for a load, for a stimulus. And if you surpass that, what happens? You get injured. So like your bicep is only so strong until it snaps, kind of thing. And I think that's but again, what you're doing is, if you're pushing it to a point where there's still a little bit left in the tank, what happens? You just say for your muscles, for strengthening, where your muscles get a little stronger. So you have a little more capacity. So the next time you can go a little further. So it's kind of like gives you something to build off of, and builds more resiliency, more strength in that way, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and so I think that you got to be careful when you're in those grooves, because they can run you into a rut. Now sometimes there are those times where I'll do that like intentionally, where I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna crank this out, but I know I'm not doing anything tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That kind of, so you can do it intentionally. You just got to be mindful of what you're doing, and rather than just kind of going about it haphazardly.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's a good way to not necessarily keep yourself motivated, but almost keep yourself inspired in a way. Keep yourself keep things rolling. You're not letting all the fire go out. You're keeping a little bit of fire going.
Yeah, you're just constantly keeping it going, because again, when it comes down to it, no matter what we're doing, I don't care if it's jiu-jitsu, if it's your work and career, whatever, everything comes down to if it's worthwhile, long-term consistency.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you do a diet for a day, it ain't gonna get much. For a week, maybe a little bit more, but not much. A month, you're talking now. A year, ooh, even better. Right? Jiu-jitsu, do jiu-jitsu for a day, nothing. A week, nothing. A month, mostly nothing. You get a little something.
Yeah.
3 months, starting to do something now. A year, oh, that's different. So again, it's all about that long-term consistency. And I think that, it's like a lot of times there's students in the gym that come through, and I call them shooting stars.
Yep.
And shooting star students are the ones who will come in and they're so enthusiastic, they burn bright. They come in and, I mean, their star is bright. They're coming in, they're training all the time, they're talking about it, they're posting about it. They buy $1,000 worth of gis and rash guards and gear, jiu-jitsu lifestyle, bro, all that stuff. And then a couple months afterwards, they fizzle out because they can't maintain that kind of energy for a long time. And then when they don't have it, they feel lost. Whereas if you maintain a steady pace, it's much easier. It's easy to keep. It's even like in a relationship, right? You think about that. Like, I feel like sometimes I've had these relationships where they have these wild swings, ups and downs and stuff. Whereas, Jess and I were steady.
Yes,
it's like a steadying force, and it's nice. It's not all up and down. Like, we have ups and downs a little bit, of course, like anybody else, but it's steady, and I like that steady pace because it's like. That's where I want it to be, because it's like, it's reliable there, and it's good. It's
consistent.
It's consistent. It's enjoyable. It's not something where, yes, we have these wild ups, and then, oh man, these downs are bad, right?
Can you come back from those downs?
Yeah, can you come back from them? Sometimes no, which has been the answer with everyone else. And then, but with your training too, right? Like, you can have these wild ups. Oh, we're training so hard. I trained for 3 weeks straight, blah, blah, blah. And then I got injured. Oh, you tore your ACL. Well, can you come back after that 6 months to a year? Because now you're gonna be in the hole for a while. And so again, it's about being steady instead of trying to, supercharge everything.
Yeah.
So
you can't keep that pace. It's like if you accelerate, red line and you're gonna burn that. You're gonna burn your engine up.
Yeah, you got to touch it. You got to touch it from time to time. You got to get to those points, but it can't be the constant.
Yeah. I think like with diet. People, and this might be right, might be wrong, but some people like cheat days. It gives you a little inspiration, gives you a little break.
Sure. So
you get a little cheat day. All right, that's awesome. I've earned that cheat day. Now I'm gonna get back on the horse and do my thing for 6 days or whatever. I'm gonna get another little cheat day.
Yeah.
And that gives you a little bit. It gives you a little inspiration, gives you a little reward, so to speak. But you're also still seeing the benefits.
Sure.
You're kind of switching it up a little bit.
Well, and diet's interesting too, because again, going back to the body being this amazing machine. People that yo-yo in their diets, right? So here's what happens when you diet. Let's say that you go into a caloric deficit and you start to trim off the weight, especially if you try to really crash diet. But even if you just go into caloric deficit, what ends up happening is your body becomes more insulin sensitive, because what's happening is you're starving yourself essentially. Your body does not know that you're doing this temporarily, so your body then becomes very efficient at absorbing the nutrients, because it's saying, oh crap, we're not getting as much food as we were. Right. Right? So now it starts to typically slow your metabolism down. right? Your body then like is like, hey, we can't be as energetic as we've been. We got to slow the metabolism down and make more efficient use of all the food that we're taking in, that kind of thing. So then when you start to add the calories in, if you don't do it in the right way, right? So if you do this super intense crash diet, and then all of a sudden you don't do it in a way that is sustainable, because you just try to bottom out. Yeah, you lose some weight, but then if you immediately go back to eating what you're going to eat, well, here's the problem. Now you're going to be eating. So let's say if you go back to the normal amounts of food you were eating before, now your body's more it's more efficient at absorbing that food, and you're probably going to go back and be heavier than what you were before. And so it's the same thing. It would be better to diet sensibly, slowly, over time, than do some crash diet where then you come back and your body swings back and forth because it's harsh on your body. So it's better to do something again where by eating that's something where you're just kind of dipping out of that caloric. You're just dipping into caloric deficit, right? But you're still eating a good amount of food. And hey, you get a cheat meal at the end of the week, right? You get to eat something that tastes really good that maybe you've been wanting to eat. Cool. Then that's sustainable. That's easier to maintain opposed to, all right, you get nothing for the next 3 weeks because we're going to crash diet and whatever, and then you starve yourself. And again, it's the same kind of idea. It's to me, it's a consistent. It's a consistency that's steady and is much more useful for the long-term effect rather than just trying to go intense on something. And again, when you do that, I think that's where the groove can turn you into a rut and become like a block of some sort later on if you just don't check it. Because then if you go in that groove, you're going hard at whatever it is that you're doing, and it's working. Boom! Now you hit that rut because you didn't give yourself enough time to back off. Okay, well the wheels are spinning. Screw it. I'm gonna grind because yesterday everything was good. Today's gonna be better. And you start spinning the wheels, and all of a sudden now you're just knee deep in the mud and ain't going nowhere. Now you're in a block. Now you're going to have to dig yourself out of there, and that's going to be a different situation, right? And that's where, like, if you think about jiu-jitsu training, that's where you're injured. And now you're having to get operated on, and you're going to have to dig yourself out of it. It's where maybe it's not even a heart injury. Maybe it's just something where you're going to have to take a few weeks off from training because of overuse. Like some tendinitis on the elbow or something, getting heart hurt, or your hips or something like that. Now we got to dig ourselves out of this hole, and that's going to take a lot longer than simply just, hey, take a couple days off, take a few days off, whatever, and come back.
It's more steady. It's more like a gradual. Like you take a little break, and it's just a gradual ascend back up. It's not like this huge dip, and then you have to do all this work to come back up to where you were before.
Yeah. Now the one thing I will say with blocks is that when it does come to a block, you have to get moving. Because there's times where mental blocks, physical blocks, whatever, you got to get moving. And if you're injured, and we'll consider that like a block. If you're injured, well, that means you're doing some PT. You're preparing for later. You're just getting yourself moving. And maybe when you're just getting back to exercise, like when you come back to training, well, that means you're not rolling. You're just doing some drilling, and you're just doing the warm ups, just getting your body acclimated.
Yes.
If you're doing some sort of creative endeavor, that means you're just starting to write a little bit, and you're just starting to do videos, or you're starting to do your podcast, or whatever it is that you're doing. Everybody's got their own creative little things that they get into, especially today. I feel like everybody's got kind of a creative little niche for themselves, whatever that might be. And so you just got to kind of get going and doing something. Because one of the things it's interesting, I was talking to actually one of the students at the gym, and I was telling him the other day, I'm like, today's a slow day for me. I'm kind of in a bit of a rut. He's like, you're in a rut? He's like, Chewy's in a rut? Chewy. Like, how did this happen? I've never heard of Chewy in a rut, right? And and I told him, it's like one of the things that like I'll do whenever I get into a rut is like I'll put music on in the gym. No one's around or anything like that, and I do sometimes I'll do different meditations and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll just dance. Now, there's no right or wrong way to dance.
I'm recording you dancing next time it happens.
Well, and the funny thing is, it's funny when people think about it. He's like, oh, I can't dance. Like, anybody can dance. You're just moving around to music. You give a kid who doesn't know what's supposed to be the correct way of dancing, and they can dance all they want to.
Right.
But I'm dancing with a very particular purpose because I want to shake my body, get it moving. Because your body has a hard time, the mind has a hard time of maintaining the facade if you start shaking around and doing stuff. So it's just something kind of fun to do, and by the end of it, it's helpful. But if you get into those blocks, that's when you kind of just do some stuff that's, again, probably not what you're trying to get ready for, but do something to just kind of get moving.
Right.
Just do something, and I mean moving physically and metaphorically. Just do something.
Yeah, I mean, there's something with that with the movement. There, it stimulates a lot of those hormones that make you feel better. Mm-hmm. I mean, anything like go for a run. What happens?
Even if you start dancing, especially the dancing I'm doing, I'm not dancing like in any particular way. I'm being silly. Like the whole thing is to just do all kinds of crazy movement. Look, if someone saw me, they'd be like, "You're a freaking kook. Like you look ridiculous right now." But that's the whole point, because it's hard to maintain the facade if you're shaking and acting silly. Right, and that's the whole thing, because even like I was talking to your wife the other day, and we were talking about how the body stores things, everything from trauma to everything else. It's stored in the body, So if you start doing stuff, the mind follows. Even like where they did the examples where they had people put their hands on their hips or their hands in a V, like they just won something in victory. They had those people hold those poses for a period of time, and then they measured their hormone levels, and they found that people, if they had slump posture, or if they had commanding posture, like I just won something, or I'm very like in charge, like arms akimbo is what this is called.
Why is it called that?
I don't know. That's what they said in the book, and they said that they had positive hormonal changes, things like more endorphins and just testosterone rises and stuff like that. So you think about that. Sometimes the stuff that's going on in us is like it's a reflection of what our body's doing. So if you start to do something with the body then sort of like the mind and everything else reflects it.
Yeah, it follows it.
Right,
it follows suit.
Right.
Interesting.
And so you think about that, like where you work out, all of a sudden you got endorphins. The endorphins didn't come before; they came after.
Yes.
So sometimes, like again, with the blocks, there's times where, again, you just got to back off, and you'll kind of have to take, you'll know when you're physically and whatever. But if you've been kind of slumped around for a couple days or something, you're just not feeling it. Right. That's when you got to kind of just do something. That's when you just got to like, look, I'm good. I'm physically, I'm healthy, whatever. And I'm just going to start doing stuff. And so that might mean that you start to like train, even though you're not really feeling like it. And then you start to get in the mood. I'm back, it feels good. Right. And you just kind of get moving sometimes. And again, everybody has to kind of discern, because everybody's a little bit different, but
right. No, that makes sense.
All right, guys. So hopefully that's useful to you. Again, I know that we were kind of riffing on that a little bit, but that's just something that was on my mind because, again, I was in a rut. And I know that a lot of you guys probably watch and listen to me, and you probably think, oh, man, he's a big ball of motivated energy that never tires. And because that's what people, like a lot of my students, the same thing. They like, I was talking to him a couple the other day, like that I'm in a rut. And you're in a rut? What? How are you in a rut? You're never in a rut. It happens. I just know to kind of ride it out.
You're a human, aren't you?
Well, I'm human, of course. But what I'm saying is people don't see you. They see a facet of you, and they think that's how you always are. But again, finding ways to, if you don't judge it and you find ways to get out of it, they don't last very long.
Yeah.
It's when you start to like make a judgment on yourself and everything else, then that's where the problems come in.
Gotcha.
At least in my eyes. So again, hopefully this is useful to you. Hopefully you guys are able to get something from the episode. Funny thing. So today, it's so funny, like some of the trolls. So I had one guy today. He said, I'll read to you guys. I've had fun with this one. I typically don't answer trolls, but this one I was kind of having
fun. You answered
it? Yeah, I was having fun with them.
By the way, I remember watching, you posted a video of you and Chad and Adam like looking at like funny comments and stuff, and there was like the no liabilities one, and watching you guys laugh about it, and then seeing what that came to be like this huge part of Chad's kind of persona. It's so funny, by the way.
So this guy, he sends up a post on one of my videos. He goes, "How big is this guy's head? BJJ and addicted to HGH. Laugh out loud." And because, okay, so if you use HGH, it can cause your jaw to grow.
Sure, yeah.
Which I don't, my head's the same damn size it's always been. I just got a big noggin.
You've kind of had a big head always.
I've always had a big head.
A lot of MMA fighters and people that have fought before have big heads. I don't know why.
I wonder which one came first, right? But and I've also got a beard too, which doesn't make my head look any smaller, right? Like I was telling someone this the other day. I was like the other day, like with me losing weight and my head being kind of big and having a beard, I feel like I'm a bobblehead. But and then I replied to him and said, "Oh man, you got me. I'm addicted to BJJ and HGH. I use so much. I shower in that stuff. I'm trying to get my head so big that when I die, they can take my skull and place it somewhere like Easter Island." I think it's so ridiculous because I get called a lot of things, but like everybody makes fun of my tooth, right? So then I was like, let's make fun of my tooth. So now it's my head. Maybe I'll do that in one of the videos. Then he goes on to say, go read book, people. I was like, sounds like you need to read a book, bruh. Go read book, people. Comedy is the no one thing people go to. God, his spelling's terrible. When you definitely need to read
more books, sir.
Or ma'am. When they are trying to deflect. I love trolls sometimes. Deflect like an accusation. So this guy has dug his own hole and jumped in it. Look at that head. Laugh out loud. It's so sad.
I hate. Do you have I have a really.
And then he goes on. So then he keeps going. He goes, "Go take more HGH, handicap boy. Too bad it doesn't make you taller. Laugh out loud."
What does that have to do with anything?
And then,
Why?
Head growth and jawline and chin growth are the major side effects of HGH. This guy has a huge head and is hiding his jaw and chin with his beard. Chin looks massive though. Laugh out loud, deformed.
Hashtag deformed. Oh, people. I have a problem with people not being able to write sentences properly. Sometimes I mess up on sentences.
I love it, dude. I have. This is why it brings me so much fun. This is so much fun.
What? I don't get it.
Bro, I don't take this personal. Like,
of course you don't.
That dude's like sitting there in his basement, like, "Oh yeah, got him." You know, so I just told him, I was like, "Thanks for the laugh. I'll troll on for the rest of the weekend, brother. Have it."
Will you give him a shout out? What's his name?
Oh, I'm not gonna give a shout out. If you guys if you follow me on my email list, you'll definitely be getting an email with that in it.
Sweet.
So if you want to get that,
those are fun.
Yeah, those are fun. So that'll be one of my emails coming out next week. So if you guys want to get on that, you go over to my website, chewjitsu.net, and when you go in there, if you go to the website, there's like a free ebook that I give away. You can subscribe, and you'll get an email. And I'll do more commentary on old Trolley McTrollerson there.
Well, you told me like when we had Paul Hogan on the podcast, you were talking about somebody calling you bootlicker.
Yeah, bootlicker.
And I was like, wait a second, that's like a kiss ass, I guess, or something, right?
Yeah.
That's what's your okay? I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. I don't have time for that.
I don't have to. The thing is
it's funny. It is funny.
I was sitting there as that was going on. I was like eating food. I was eating my lunch, and I was like, "Well, this is fun. Let's I was like, I get called a lot of things. This is the first time my head's been like talked about being big.
Well, maybe because you're getting all smaller.
Well, no, this is an old video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this isn't.
So this is not even recent.
It's like one of my old videos.
It's not even tiny Chewy.
No, this is Chewy about 210, 212. So about normal size.
Normal Chewy.
Yeah. So I was just like, whatever. I don't get called a big head, so I was like, let's have fun with it.
Oh boy.
You know? I was like, I've been accused of a lot of things, but not using HGH.
Yeah. Whatever.
You know?
I don't know.
I think it's funny. Anyway,
yeah, that's right.
But hopefully you guys enjoyed that about me being. I love the part. He's hiding it under that beard.
Shave it.
I was like, literally, I grew the beard out because I got lazy, and then I just kind of liked it.
I did too, actually. Like, I was like, God, I'm tired of shaving. And I was let it grow out. And now with like the masks and stuff, like, I was like, oh, I'll just let whatever happen.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell.
So anyway, guys, hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast, enjoy that little last bit there. Again, if you guys want to support the podcast and save yourself some money on this November 26th through the 30th, 2020, you can use a promo code Chewjitsu30 on Charlotte's Web's website, charlotteweb.com, and you can save 30% on anything in their store. So if you've been wanting to try some of their stuff, maybe the sleep gummies, whatever it is that you're thinking about, try it out. I'm a big fan, just sort of letting you guys know this, the CBD Medic stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
Dude, it's great. I rubbed that on my neck. I had a guy, I was rolling with this tough wrestler up in Indiana, wrenching on my neck. And I was all like, oh, God, it's tight. Rub that stuff on there. Man, it helped me sleep. Yeah. Because my neck was really tight that night. And so it helped me. It kind of went away. So I was like, good stuff. Like it a lot. Big fan of the product. So again, check their stuff out. You can also go to epicrollbjj.com. Promo code Chewjitsu. Save 15% off of everything in that store. And again, that he's got some really cool stuff. So if you're in the mood for some new Chewjitsu, or not Chewjitsu, but Jiu-Jitsu gear, check it out. And then again, if you want a beginner sort of workout program, but it's a weightlifting program, but a beginner weightlifting program, check out the patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Eugene's uploading that up there so you guys can jump in and get that. Again, it's a 3-day week program. The workout will probably take you about 40 minutes, and it will sort of prepare you for taking on more volume later on. So it'll be a good starter program just to get you going. It's the one that we use when people come in through the door and they're like, hey, I don't work out much. Do this program, get started with this, and we'll bump you up later on. And then, yeah.
So if you're a Patreon member or subscriber in November, you're going to be eligible for some gummies. We're going to do a giveaway. We'll send it to you as long as it's legal and where you're at. And we're
talking about you, Australia. We can't send you
Australia.
Oh, we can't send you. It's not Australian.
What was that?
That was not Australian. That was. I don't know what it's got to be, but it's not Australian. It's more like something British. Like
that's British.
I feel like I'm British, but but then maybe you can go like crikey. If I say crikey, Australia. I can't do it. I got a terrible Australian accent.
You're pretty decent accents. I'm horrible at them.
I've got like terrible accents. It's not good.
Yeah.
Like people listen to me overseas and they're saying like, "What is he doing? It's not good. His accent is not good at all."
That's right.
It's not.
Just take solace in the fact that you make fun of everyone's accent. You got a little redneck accent. Or
I make fun. Yeah.
Country.
Kentucky. Because that's where I'm from, guys. I am from Kentucky, and I used to say y'all.
Do you still say y'all?
No, I don't say y'all. No, not very often. I'll say y'all sometimes, but I don't say it very often. I used to say it all the time, and I had a bit of a drawl to my voice. I remember not liking it, so I got rid of it.
I was reading a book. What book is it? 10X is the 10X rule or something. Grant Cardone. I was just starting to read it. He's got like a very.
He's from like Louisiana or something.
I don't know. He's got a very country.
Yeah.
Country way. Because he reads the book himself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew McConaughey is another guy.
Yeah,
he does that.
I like his. I read his
little southern.
I listened to his memoir.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
I haven't listened to it. I do have it. It's on the docket.
One time there was a great courses lecture I was listening to. It was they like basically the daily lives of ancient peoples, and so this particular lecturer just went through and sort of identified all the different stuff that he could find on these ancient peoples and how they live day to day.
Yeah,
and he was interesting because he had a lisp. Huh. So, but it was like you almost like. You got used to it. At first, it was kind of distracting. Then after a while, you didn't notice it, And I remember Jess loved it. She was like, "Are you gonna listen to that lecture tonight?" Like it's the only one she's ever liked. And I remember when it was over, she was kind of sad. She's like, "Oh, that's sad. I liked him."
It's a soothing voice, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Somebody did ask us about books, so maybe we'll answer that on Patreon. Somebody wanted to know about some books we recommend.
Okay.
So books.
I can do something like that. I can go through. I've been getting a lot of questions about books recently, so maybe I'll do some videos for the Patreon or something like that. Show you guys some books that I'm reading.
Yeah. There's there's so many different things you can read books for, but I guess maybe look at some categories and see what our favorites are.
Mm-hmm.
See you guys next time.